thanks. Awesome to be here.
Oh, really excited to have you. I had a quick question. The first thing when I knew I was going to be in here today was I wanted to ask you about the size of the turtles from the new movie.
Right.
Because they're so much bigger than the original concept, and I know that you worked as the principal consultant on the movie, right?
Right. Yep.
So how did you feel about it? How did that decision come to be made?
Well, it was interesting. A lot of people, if you know more about the black and white turtle history, there was a particular series of issues that Michael Zulli did, where he took a very realistic look to the turtles. I think it was 32, 33, and 36. And they were much, much bigger. And when we looked at all the different versions of the turtles, because Pete and I had always made them much smaller, and we did and they just wanted to sort of keep the same heart and soul of the turtles' personalities and that kind of stuff for the movie, but they wanted to change it up a little bit, not only with the look, and they gravitated to that look and the size, which, once you see it, it's to me, it was interesting. I like some of the design aspects of it, but it was ominous, I mean, I love the look of the animated turtles in the Nickelodeon series because they're more like the teenagers they should be. They're small, and they're, I like the fact that they made Splinter so much bigger in the animated series.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little disconcerting at first, but in the end, I think once you sort of saw her moving around, it had a neat presence to it. But,
okay. In the second one, do you think, because we're introducing Casey Jones in this one, right?
Yep.
And he's always been more of a street level. The analogy that we were making the other day is that he's usually poor,
right?
And that's why he's got sports equipment as his weapons. And in the first movie, it was a robotic shredder that needed to stand up to the turtles. Do you think he's going to have trouble in the? I assume there's going to be a Raphael versus Casey scene because that's pretty much standard.
Yeah, it has to be. There absolutely has to be. But that's going to be interesting because it is like. Even when you look at Casey Jones as a character, the way he was created, he's got a golf bag full of, like a cricket bat and a hockey stick and golf clubs. You just think it'd be no match for somebody that, even, the foot soldiers, ninja sword and that kind of stuff. But
sure.
That's what makes a hero more heroic is like if he get through some of that stuff. But,
okay, cool.
But that's going to be scary, to see Raphael, because Raphael's about 9 feet tall and Casey's just still Casey.
Deflects bullets and stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll go around. We'll keep coming back.
Well, I just had a quick question about
Sure.
that. Does that mean Casey Jones worked part-time at a sporting goods store?
It's either that or he goes to the Salvation Army or the dumpster or something. And because that was we always had him be a hockey player when we did him originally, the hockey mask and the hockey sticks. But Pete's the one that came up with the idea for the golf bag, which I thought was I had him with just 2 baseball bats originally, and Pete came up with the idea for the golf bag where it had a cricket bat and umbrella, golf clubs, and that kind of stuff. So, ladies,
we were doing a little research and we saw that when you originally created the comics, there was a lot more rough and gruff than the cartoons that followed right after. And how did you feel about the Saturday morning cartoonification, I guess, of the Turtles?
Well, what's interesting, and I always love to say that, especially with the first issue of the Turtles. Pete and I wrote it for ourselves because we were quite positive that nobody would buy a single copy of it. We'd be giving it to friends and family for years, for Christmas presents or something. So when we started out writing it, we literally wrote something that was just, assumed that we'd be the only ones reading it. So we put an edge to it. They were a lot more, violent, but it wasn't, you didn't see limbs removed or eyes gouged out or all that kind of stuff. So it was written for us. But the best part of the fact that we created it, we self-published it, and then early days as the publishing grew, because we owned it, we had full control and full say over anything that was done with the Turtles or what wasn't done with the Turtles. When they approached us to do a Saturday morning cartoon, we thought it was a really silly idea, one that, we were amazed enough that it actually worked as a comic book. We said it's never going to work as a toy or a cartoon show. But when we started going into the process of developing it, we knew very specifically it was being written down to a much younger audience. And so we knew it had the softness of edges, like, for example, that's why the foot soldiers became robot soldiers. You can't kill people on Saturday morning cartoon show. But robots you can, hack and slash all day long.
With the way the preachers.
Yeah, exactly. And then even with the bandanas, because the animators and the toy designers were like, well, how do you tell them apart? And we're like, the weapons, duh. And they said, no, for an animated show, it'd be great if we could come up with a way to tell them apart a little bit better. And Pete came up with the idea. He said, well, why don't we do different colored bandanas? And that's always a fan question. Why did, for example, why did you choose the colors that we did? And they said, was it accidental or on purpose? And it was very specific in that, Michelangelo, orange, it's kind of silly, kind of red. Raphael, the Rage guy, we kept him with the original red bandana. Leo, blue, he's very royal, sort of regal colors. And purple for Donatello, it's kind of like more of a pacifist sort of monk-like thing, which is his bow staff and everything that fit together. So, yeah, everything that we changed, because Peter and I, again, we had full control over the scripts, full control over the look of the Turtles, and we knew we had to soften them for a younger audience, so it was fun. We had to have best of both worlds, because we had hacking, the grittiness of the black and white comic books and the Saturday morning version for the kids. So. Yes, ma'am.
Well, this one is kind of a personal question. It's bugged me for a while. Not bugged me, but... Now, when you named the Turtles, I know that you named them after the great artist.
Yep.
So you have Leo as the leader. And I know that you're a fan of Leonardo da Vinci. He's like
one of my heroes,
yeah. Yeah. So how did Donnie end up as the inventor and not Leo?
Well,
because Leonardo da Vinci is...
Yeah.
So that's always kind of been, because Leonardo da Vinci is I'm a big fan there too, so...
Yep. Well, actually, Donatello was almost named Bernini, because I was like, back in the early, because, Leonardo came first. I said, when he said, well, what do we name him? Traditional Asian names seemed natural, but we said, well, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it has to be a lot sillier. Doug, Bob, Steve, still not silly enough, and I just blurted out, because I was, again, a huge fan of Leonardo and Michelangelo, so I said, what about, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, I don't know, something like Italian Renaissance guys, and we both laughed, and so that worked. And then we were trying to pick the name for the fourth one, and I said, how about something like, one of my favorite sculptors was Bernini. I said, how about Bernini? And Pete said, well, how about Donatello? Because it's sort of, we got another name that ends with an O, and it kind of goes with the thing, so we did almost a coin toss and sort of thing, and Donatello won. But in the development of the turtle personalities, when you look at the way the turtles have evolved to today, in those early issues, they were just 4 turtles. You didn't have the tech guy, you didn't have,
Yeah, I noticed he kind of evolved.
He kind of evolved.
Like some water heaters and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this thing went on. So there was, I'd like to say, there was more rhyme and reason, but it was just sort of the way that personalities naturally evolved. It just ended up Donatello was the tech one, but.
And one other little ice cream kitty.
Yeah, ice cream kitty.
And is that fun doing that?
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, I had to live with cats for a month so I can get the meows right and everything. No, I didn't. Of course, no. It was Ciro Neely, who's the executive producer and the main creative director on the Nickelodeon animated series. Is just, this guy grew up. His dad ran a pizza place in Philadelphia. He grew up eating pizza, watching Turtles, and he's a fantastic artist. And when he took over the show, we've been friends before he took over the show, and so I did a bunch of consulting early on. And he said, we have to come up with a voice for you to do in the show, and someone really cool, like a bad guy or something. And I'm like, and so we kept kicking around ideas, and then at Comic-Con a year or so ago, they were showing characters they were introducing for the next season, and he developed Ice Cream Kitty, which was based on the Michelangelo Christmas special, where he found the cat and he named it Clunk. So he wanted a cat in there. And when he showed the picture of Ice Cream Kitty, I said, "That's it. That's who I want to be." And they're like, "No. We want something else. We want something more interesting." I said, "No, I want to be Ice Cream Kitty. Damn it."
You want to be Ice Cream Kitty.
I wanted to be Ice Cream Kitty. I think it's the funniest thing, and I like cats too. So I did that voice, and he's been in a bunch of different episodes, and I think that.
And he's charming. I mean, he's
I think they're actually Playmates is finally going to come out with a little Ice Cream Kitty toy, so I'm excited about that.
Cool. Well, that's one of our favorites. We really enjoy it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much. Do you have a question, my friend?
Sure. Actually, I'm Robert. I interviewed you on Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
I see you too.
Nice to put a face with the voice, anyway.
Yeah. How do you decide who, like, when you create a new mutant, like what animal to use and what kind of characteristics to give them?
Well, that's it's tough because you do have to marry. When you look at different animals, you look at their place in space in the natural world. I guess a Wolverine is a badger and all these different things, and then so you sort of take their personality traits or the natural animalistic traits, and then oftentimes try to marry them with either a personality or a favorite bad guy that you liked or something. So it's it's tough, these days, especially to be, original with that stuff. You want to come up with something interesting and unique and original, but it's like, look at the world we live in between video games and role-playing games and cartoons and characters. It's hard. There's not much left out there, so it's sort of sometimes it's like, one of those, match games. You sort of, okay, we've got this, and let's see how that works as a character, and then develop the personality around that. So, it's
So
a trick to it.
Street and sharks.
Yeah, exactly. Biker mice from Mars.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Street Sharks. The Robot Chicken episode where they were promoting them as totally different from the Ninja Turtles was pretty hilarious. There's no pizza in this one. No, they eat burgers or something.
The whole Cerebus thing was fun too.
The what?
The Aardvark Cerebus.
Oh yeah, that was cool. Cerebus was a huge influence to me because I grew up, reading regular comic books, and then when I started growing, kind of out of comic books, and then you get to that point in junior high and high school, and then I was like, they started to get a little juvenile, but then I discovered Heavy Metal Magazine, and it's like that to me was amazing because it was Heavy Metal Magazine was geared more towards an older audience, and I'm like, that was a big revelation. It's like, man, you can tell any kind of comic story you can ever imagine for any age and tell it in comics. And within the pages of Heavy Metal Magazine, they had guys like Richard Corbin, that was a self-publisher, Robert Crumb, Vaughn Bodie, and that kind of led me down the path to underground self-publishers. And then in 1976, when Cerebus came out, you see the direct influence on Cerebus. I was a huge fan of Cerebus, huge fan of Dave Sim. And you look at, Cerebus was an aardvark that acted like a barbarian. He was drawn like Barry Smith's Conan stories in the early 70s, mid-70s. And so when Pete and I were doing this parody, we said, well, let's, we took some Daredevil, we took some Ronin, we took some New Mutants, we took an animal character. Because another, comic that was my favorite when I was growing up was Jack Kirby's Commandy, which was all mutant animals. So it was really a mishmash the Turtles were really a mishmash of all of Pete and I's favorite things, all sort of put into a blender and became the Turtles. But Cerebus was a big influence, and Dave and I still keep in touch today. He's a great guy. So.
He's a good guy. A crossover.
He doesn't do any internet. You can only fax Dave. All Dave messages. Every creative person I think is a little crazy.
So you said Daredevil's going to be a crossover?
Oh, I'd love it, but I don't think. I think Marvel all these years was trying to figure out if they should sue us or not. I don't know.
You kept it.
Yeah, we kept it just to the left, and I think but you guys see the Netflix Daredevil series?
Yeah. Yes.
I was waiting for a reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
man.
something in a sewer, just a couple of little turtles in a sewer somewhere. I think that'd be good.
Maybe they'll do that. Then we'll sue them. No, wait, no. Of course not. No. I was a huge fan of Daredevil my whole life. So. Yes, sir. Did you have a question? You guys? Oh, you guys are together?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Well, I'm actually close friends with a local radio DJ, and he's a huge fan of yours, and he's a huge fan of Usagi, and y'all done crossovers before. Can we look forward to any more of that?
I would love it, because, Stan Sakai is just one of the nicest people on the planet. Pete and I met him in the early days of going to Comic-Cons. We'd see Stan, and they'd always, they'd be like, they'd always sit us next to Stan, because they're like, oh, they're those guys that do the goofy animal characters. And so, because we started in the business around the same time, and so we just fell in love with Stan as a person and loved Usagi as a character. And so we did many crossovers, including the TV show and the toys and all that stuff. And there's been a lot of discussion between Nickelodeon and to bring in characters like Usagi Yojimbo and even I wanted to bring in Flaming Carrot, which I think is a great character, Flaming Carrot. But unfortunately, sometimes you get into the entanglement of Viacom and their lawyers. Sometimes things aren't as easy as you'd like them to be, and Stan, and rightfully so, I think you should keep all the rights to his character, and I think that right now the lawyers are negotiating pretty heavy to try to own more of Usagi and Stan. I wouldn't want Stan to do that kind of deal anyway. So, but I hope that it all works out, and I hope we get to see Usagi not in the new animations, not only in the new animated series, but in the comic books as well. So, love Usagi.
And how does it feel to be the father of a pop culture icon?